So yes, we are live, but I wanted to show off that image for a second because it's so darn cool and is a good way to bring us into this conversation. So I am Evan Matthews, co-founder of Macroverse, and I am very excited to be talking to Rob Shields today about about a bunch of things, but kind of oriented around this latest project of his called End of the World Pizza. So Rob, do you want to maybe just give a little bit of an introduction and background in general, and also
Sure.
just celebrate how much coolness you're displaying in both the world of your story, but also we're around Halloween time. It all seems
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here and to be able to talk to you.
Yeah,
Um, Hopefully my avatar is not glitching out too badly.
no, it's pretty awesome.
um, so what was the question again? Just that you want to do an introduction about End of
Yeah,
the World
just a
Pizza?
little bit about your background, I guess, kind of leading. I mean, we can dive deeper into some areas, but I think just a little intro to you and what you've been doing, and then a little bit about End of the World Pizza would be great. Like how the journey is always something I think is really interesting.
Yeah, so this is actually my third augmented reality comic book,
Yeah,
and I've been making these since. Well, the idea for the first one I had around like 2017, and then I did a Kickstarter, I think 2018 or 2019. It all blurs together now. And that was called Neon Wasteland. So that was my first time actually making an augmented reality comic book, and it was really cool, and like it basically like blew people's minds when I showed it to them at Comic-Con. So I got really excited about being able to do it more, and I released a second issue of that in 2020, or I kickstarted it in 2020 and I shipped it in 2022, so last year. And so this is going to be my third issue of any augmented reality comic, and it's my second series. I also have another series that's unreleased right now, but it's finished. And so yeah, so this is actually my third series that I'm working on in AR, and it's really exciting because it's like taking all the things that I love growing up. So it's like comic books and cartoons and video games, and finding a way to get them to live together, which
yeah,
is actually really not easy to do. Like it's really easy to screw that up, basically. And so, but I'm like obsessed with like figuring it out and how to like not mess it up and still give you like what you're expecting, and but something better, and not like giving you something that's worse than what you would have gotten from like either of those individual things or any of those individual elements.
yeah, 100%. I mean that to me is so critical, and when I describe your work to people, sometimes I'm like, this is the AR version of comics that doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Because I think we've seen some versions of it that are not great, or that just feel like I think what it is. I'm always kind of looking at things from the point of view of does it add something unique and novel to the actual quality of the storytelling, or is it just kind of a gimmicky layer over the top of it? And I think the work that you do falls in the first category in a way that most of
Thank
what
you.
we've seen, hasn't. Even experiments that Marvel did. There was a time, probably about a decade ago, where it's like there
Yep.
were a number of Marvel comic covers that were like playing with, AR and that kind of stuff. And none of it was very good. And then, you came along with Neon Wasteland. And I think I was also one of those people that was like, oh man, this is actually what this is supposed to be like. Let alone the transformation into like, now I'm playing a game, and all of the different things that you built into it, which have been so cool. So I just hats off to the love and care that you clearly take for this stuff, and the approach to exactly what you said, which is making it something that feels like it was meant to be that thing, and not
Yeah.
like oh, this is a sales tactic, or like just because I can kind
Yeah,
of
like at
thing.
the end you just slap it on there and try
Yeah.
to sell more copies. It's like, yeah, no, people see through that stuff.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna show a trailer for this book, End of the World Pizza. But before we do, I was just you were talking about Neon Wasteland, and it was making me remember when I first came across your work. And so when I posted this in Discord that we were gonna have this conversation today, I actually been wanting for a while to do more of these kind of spotlight conversations with, other artists and creators that I like their work and respect. And we haven't done a lot of them. We mostly focused on the stuff that we've been working on, or the people that are kind of in the orbit of the stuff that we've been working on. But I'm excited for this to be one of those, kind of conversations. And it was reminding me that, I must have seen like early versions of some of the stuff you were working on for Neon Wasteland, certainly before it was Kickstarter. I think it was in the very early days of the first couple samples that you posted, and probably
Right.
the robot with the like mohawk, kind of style in the car, which I think one of the kind of key art images.
Yep. Yep.
And we were putting together at that point. This is so funny. It kind of is a weird full circle. That was in the end of the ICO boom in crypto. And we were putting together a comic and animated series that was actually funded by an ICO. So
nice.
This guy had raised $1 million by issuing his own token at the end of that cycle. And it was one of the early things that crossed our radar where we're like, you can do that. And so that was funding this project, and we made a whole animated pilot and a comic series. And so we were putting the comic series together. It's this dystopian cyberpunk kind of world, and I think that was the thing that I reached out to you about initially, was like seeing those samples and going like, oh man, this would be really fun to work on. And of course you were totally consumed in Neon Wasteland world, and rightly so, given that we've now seen what the results of that have been. But I've been a fan of your work ever since then, and kind of followed the journey and just everything that you've been doing. So I'm even more excited to have this opportunity, and also the chance to kind of talk through some of your process and what kind of brought you into this way of approaching some of this stuff. And then to talk about this new project as well. So that's all a long way around of me just saying like, I love what you do. And
thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate it. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to work together, because that's one of the things that's really hard for me, because it's like I do a lot of stuff myself, and I don't necessarily want that to be the way, but it's like when I like commit to something, I'm like, I have to do this, otherwise it's like not going to happen. So I have to do it. But yeah, that's like one of my big goals in life going forward, is like I want to be able to collaborate more with other people, because I think that's just going to make things better, and to be able to like, bring other people's talents together, and like that's just like all really good things. And it's just really hard to do it by yourself. So yeah.
It is true. I think it's a double-edged sword. There are certainly times where it's like you just want the unfiltered version of someone's, vision, their talent. Like, there's something kind of special and magical when you do have the ability, that you have to kind of just take something and give us the kind of completely unfiltered, raw vision of this, particular thing. And then there's also, something wonderful about, kind of the combination of different ideas and talents to, bring something slightly different to life. So I'll be excited as we have that opportunity as well. And maybe we'll have something to say about that a little bit as we continue this conversation. Let's show the trailer in just a moment, but I think it would be interesting for, anyone that's less familiar with your work. Before you started working on Neon Wasteland, like how did you start to, get into just being an artist, or, what was kind of the early days of finding your way into being someone that, makes creative things for a living?
Yeah. So I started, I actually got a degree in like science, and I was supposed to do like science stuff, and that was like super depressing to me. So I had like this moment where I was like, I can't do this. I'm gonna have to do something creative, which was like against like everything I was raised to be like, you can't be creative. It's not a safe thing to do. So I did it anyway, and like I started off doing like trying to do like advertising and being into like that sector of like, oh, I want to work for brands, I want to work for big brands, and then I got a job with Sony. And it was not like, it was a good job, and like it paid well, but it was like not fulfilling to me. I was like, wow, this is like super, like not what I imagined it to be. It was very like soulless almost for me. And so, cause it was like, like they wanted me to like hit the trend at the time, and it wasn't like for me, I was like, oh, I want to like make a trend, or I want to push something and do something different, and they're like, no, we just want it to be this, like this is what it is, and just make it this. And I was like, okay, and like that's fair enough. Like that's some of the things you learn as being a professional artist, is like you have to deliver what people are expecting from you. But at the same time, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like what I want to do. So I kind of like pivoted, and I started doing more like digital art. And I've always been like a fan of comic books and video games. And so I actually got hired by a gaming company to be their concept artist and their like marketing artist. And they taught me how to program when I was at that company. And so that for me was like huge. And I remember them saying to me, they're like, if you can do this programming and also have your visual style, it's going to be like really powerful combination. And like I really took that to heart. And so that's kind of how I see myself now, where I really want to push on both of those things. And it can be really difficult because like programming is not like, for me, I'm not like amazing at programming. I can do it and I can figure it out. And it's gotten a lot easier now that there's Chat GPT. So that can like help you, because it like gives you like this starting base, and it's always broken, but like you can kind of like fix it and it helps you get there. So yeah, it's like, it's a totally different thing, but it's really cool to be able to like make something interactive. And for me, like as a kid, like games were huge. Like playing video games was like, I was obsessed. And I grew up playing like the NES, the original Nintendo. And
me too.
yeah, that was like, and I was like, wow, it's like actually like the graphics look like something that you can like tell what it is. Whereas like Atari was like, use your imagination. This is like you're in a spaceship, and again, you're in a spaceship.
Here's my big SNES question. So like one of my fondest memories is, having to go to school and you needing to leave it paused all day long. Leaving Super Mario Brothers in particular, like paused in the middle of the game so I could go to school and then come back and resume the game. No saves. Yeah.
Some luxuries we have now. Yeah, Nintendo was ridiculous. It was like some of those games are so brutally hard, where it was just like, we're just going to make it terrible for you at the end here. So it's like, you just can't, you're going to play this so many times and get so good at it that you're going to be able to like beat it blindfolded. Like that's the skill level that you're going to have to attain in order to finish this game. And I love that. I was like, that still like informs a lot of what I love about gaming. Like I really love old school games that are like the roguelike thing, where it's very difficult, but you get better and better. I think that's such a great update of like the Nintendo formula, where it was back then, it was like, there just wasn't a lot of content, but you didn't know any better. It was like, this is like the first time that this has happened. So now it's cool to like see how that evolved into that.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome. So you're at this game company, the combination of art and programming, which now you've leapfrogged my skill set because I gave up after Flash went away. But then at some point, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you can get back into it easier than ever now. Just get a Chat GPT and be like, hey, program this for me.
I'm just like, I'm just waiting for them to let me go. Like, okay, here's my XD or Figma file. Like, make the code for it. That's what I know it's around the corner. That's what I'm waiting for.
I've seen people like finish Blender animations with ChatGPT, and I was like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So
no, it's nuts. How far side note, but how far have you gone down that path at this point, or kind of started to play with some of those tools?
Oh God, how long has it been now since that came out?
Not that long.
It seems like forever now. I guess maybe it's like coming up on a year, where it seemed to me like it was coming out, and I'm starting to get more to grips with it now. I remember being like really depressing when it first took off, because like everybody was like coming after me and being like, hey, like this is like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And I was like, yeah, I get it, I got to do this. And and all the other things, like there's negative stuff associated with it too, which is a bummer, and we don't obviously need to retread all that, but ultimately I think it's going to be a good thing, and it's just gonna speed things up. And I'm hoping that people will still, it's going to be weird. It's going to be like what YouTube did for like television. Like if you think of YouTube as like democratizing television, it does that, but it also made like the programming much, much different. Like Mr. Beast is like not something that would be a television hit show. It's just a totally different thing. And like, it's super successful and it is its thing, but it's like, it's not like like you want to say like, oh, AI is going to make it so everyone's artists. It's like, no, it's going to make these different kinds of artists that are like what Mr. Beast is to a TV show. Like it's not the same thing, and it's still maybe entertaining, but it's going to be a totally different like playing field now. So
I love that. I'm sorry. I love that
No.
analogy because, I've had a number of conversations with, some artists that are very afraid about kind of what this all looks like and is it going to replace them? And I think, there's certainly some valid concerns around all that stuff. But I think putting it that way is a really good way of thinking about it, that, every time we have these big technology shifts, it doesn't get rid of the thing that, in most cases doesn't get rid of the thing. There's still TV shows in that example. And now there's this new thing, which is, kind of only possible because of this new technology. So I think that's a really good way of contextualizing it for ourselves as creators, that it's like there's this new tool set, this new, technology that in some ways may be useful for what we already do or help streamline our own processes or give us, new ideas to play with or new ways to approach the things that we do. And then I think that part is pretty fascinating to think about, what is this new thing that's going to evolve from people that are, fall in love with writing prompts in this case, or, whatever those various.
But it doesn't even have to be that. Cause like I saw like a great example of how it can be really great for like someone that is a traditional artist or like a digital artist is there's a program where you can create your whole animation just with the line work, and then you color in the first frame, and then the AI colors in all the other frames for you.
Yeah,
that's like those things. We need that stuff because it keeps you. It's still your vision, but it's and it's still human, but it like takes all that tedious stuff and like gives it away to the AI.
Yeah. And I think that's a hard pill for people to swallow in some cases. And I definitely get it. But I think that was the first thing that I saw too, is I was like, production artists, for better or worse, like that's the category that's just going to be decimated. And so, I was talking to somebody who was, in art school a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I think that there's kind of two options. It's like you either you can either kind of promote yourself to like art director, creative director, and be the person with the vision that's like helping to really shape and mold, what does this look like? What does it feel like? What's the story? Or you really do have to like have a skill set that's very high quality, like really high level, because I think that kind of low to mid tier production artist category is just like, why? I mean, from a practical reality, it's like those jobs are not great in a lot of parts of the world anyway. So it's like, I hate for people to lose their livelihood. But, as this shakes out, it's like, we don't necessarily need sweatshops full of hundreds of animators doing in-betweens and that work that the computer can do. So it is going to be an interesting transition, but I think you're right. There are those places where it just makes so much more sense in the long term. And there will probably be some short-term pain in areas as well, but that kind of happens with every technology shift, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it empowers people too, that are like, that maybe did have those jobs that maybe they can like create something themselves. And it doesn't have to be like to the level of whatever they had been working on. Like if you're working at Disney and being a production artist, you don't have to like become Disney yourself, but like, with the way the internet is now, if you like want to like create something as an individual or as a smaller team of people, and then AI is like your production artist, then that like gives you potentially ability to release products faster. Cause that's really what it is. It's like, if you can release stuff to the internet at a good speed, like, and it's quality and you have something unique to say, you can find an audience that will, support your project.
What a perfect segue into the end of the world pizza. So why don't we show the trailer, and then I would love to kind of talk a little bit about the world and the story and a little bit of the techniques that you use to put this together. But it's really cool. So anyone that is joining us now, hold on to your hats. I hope you're as excited about this as I am. Here goes the trailer. Hold on, we're going to start that over because it definitely needs to be full screen. Just a second. And here we go. I think.
now I can't hear.
I'm muted.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Some technical difficulties there. I'm going to try to pull it up on YouTube as well because it was clear for me, but Rob was saying it's pixely.
I don't know if people let us know if it seemed like it was good. Maybe it's just my connection is bad. That could be the case.
Well, let's make sure. Worst case scenario, we'll have to watch it a second time and be even more excited.
We can always talk about it in between.
As I'm finding it, why don't you tell us a little bit about the story and kind of what's the world?
Okay. That we're in here? Yeah. So the idea behind the story is that it's basically a horror noir story, and the idea is that there's this detective who's hunting for a serial killer inside of an artificial reality where AI has stolen everyone's face, which is why they're all skeletons. And then the meta twist is that you, as the reader, actually play the role of the detective. So one of the main functions of the AR app is that it lets you, makes your smartphone into a scanner, and you can scan the pages of the book to like dox the characters or investigate the crime scene and collect evidence. And it lets you make different choices that are actually going to affect things later on in the story. And then it also lets you play the mini games that also have stuff to do with the storyline. And so the cool thing is that the book kind of starts to recognize you as the reader as like a threat, and it starts to like react to you, and it's trying to like hide things from you. So your job is kind of to like sort of push on it and try to find these things that it's hiding from you. And that will help you to figure out who the killer is. And so this is the first book. There's going to be 2 more books to make it like a 3-act structure. So as it continues to go, there'll be different choices that you can make and different ways that you can influence the story. And I talk about it like it's an on rails choose your own adventure. So this means that the choices are like votes that you can make, and it just sends me the data. And then I'm going to pick whatever the most popular choices will become like canon in the 2nd and 3rd issue. So this gives you the ability to influence the story without derailing it, or without ever having like, oh, you picked the wrong answer, go back 2 pages and do it again. And there's only ever going to be one ending. So it's not going to have like a non-ending or a multiple ending, which those things are cool. But I feel like a good story is like one that it does really have one true ending. And that helps like the characters sort of complete their character arc and like either learn something or succumb to the problems that they had. So that makes it more satisfying. But you're going to be able to like nudge it a little bit. Like you can choose like what certain characters do, and then maybe that character doesn't survive because of the choices that were made, or maybe they do. But then like once it's done, and the story's written, and people that read it in the future will always see that one version that the people that were there early actually helped to create.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it really is blending like your narrative with interaction with a certain level of interactivity from the audience. It becomes kind of a dialogue in the storytelling as well as in the execution of it. I think that's super cool. Let's try this again. So I've got the YouTube page pulled up. Let's see if we can get this to display a little bit better, and we'll also put up the link to it as well. So here we go.
It's still lagging, but the quality is a little bit better on YouTube. So these are some of the games you actually play. There's a shmup mini boss, and there's a 2D platformer final boss.
Yeah, it's so cool. And like that little bit at the end where you're holding the comic and kind of seeing the car like come out of it, that's a little bit of that good AR comics that we were talking about at the beginning.
There's actually 4 different covers. So there's like the main cover. The the first animation that you see, and then there's 3 other hidden animations that you can unlock.
Very cool. Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. So you've got this 3 issues. You talked a little bit about the world. Who are, and introduce us to kind of who we're following, or the characters that we're going to get to know here.
So there's like classes of characters. There's the undead pizza delivery drivers, and those are people who are kind of, so the idea is that like all these people are already dead and they're living in like a metaverse or like a digital reality, and they know this. It's not like it's the secret to them. They chose to be there. But the AI that was running the thing, which is called the Machine Queen, is kind of rebelled against everybody, and it's stolen all their faces away, and it's kind of erased their memories, so they don't really remember who they are, but they like have this sense that they used to be alive and that they used to be human, and so they kind of like worship pizza as like this symbol of what it was like to be alive, because they can kind of remember like we used to get together and we used to like eat this, and it like meant something. Like they maybe don't remember why they had to eat, because they don't eat now. They're just code. Yeah. And so it's kind of like me messing around with this idea of like we're supposed to have these 2 versions of ourselves. We have like our real self, and then we have our digital self, and like the digital self is very I don't know what the word is. It's just very like persistent in that it like wants us to give us its attention, and like we live a lot more in the digital, and like that's okay, but like it's like a very dangerous thing. Like I feel like the internet and like technology in general, it gives you these very seductive promises that actually almost like take away the thing that you want to have. Like it'll be like you can have millions of friends as long as you're always just like looking at your phone and not talking to anybody. And so it's like you get the thing that you want at the cost of the thing that you want. So yeah, like that whole double-edged sword is like a big theme that I deal with. And then the other characters are these neon demons that are sort of like when the world ends, the demons are going to come out, and they're supposed to essentially just reset everything and like make the world back to the beginning and like restore the color to the world and all this stuff. And so part of the thing that I'm playing around with is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? And that's part of what like the audience is going to help me to decide like what they want to happen, because the world is ending and like it has to end. Like you can't make a book about the end of the world and then be like it didn't end. That's like that's not satisfying. So like it's going to end, and you're going to have to figure out like how you're going to act and react to that.
That's so cool. What is your approach, when you sit down with this idea? Like, do you start drawing? Do you start writing down ideas? Like, how do you approach this as a storyteller? Like, is it how does that come together for you?
For me, it's like a lot of it's character driven. Like I do have the story in mind, and I do write a lot. Like I'll write the plots down, and like I'll send the characters down different pathways and see if like that's what I want them to do or not. Mm-hmm. But for me, yeah, it's really like I want to just spend time with the characters and get to know them. And like a really interesting thing with this was originally the Machine Queen, which is the AI, was like almost like a Skynet kind of character, where it was like this alien other thing that was like sort of the villain. But as like actual AI came out, I realized that the AI is not the villain. The AI is just kind of like in the metaphor of the Wizard of Oz. It's just like the big green head. And the real villain is like the guy that's behind it, who's like using it to like do these mean things to people or whatever it's doing. So like that kind of evolved. And I see the Machine Queen character now less as like a villain and more as like just like an aspect of the system. And like, so like she now can become more morally ambiguous, and maybe she actually has a chance to be redeemed or like to do something else. So like that's really what like, and even with Neon Wasteland, like, which is the story about like a little girl who dies and her mother like follows her into the afterlife to try to like save her, which is kind of like the story of Orpheus. Like that to me is like, I just get that like idea of like, okay, these characters are in this world, and like I know what the world is, and I kind of play around with the world, but then it's like what happens that like what you're going to care about. And once I figure out what that thing is, then it's like, okay, that's what the story is going to be about.
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, that's the thing we talk about all the time is, it's like character has to drive the story. It can't be the other way around. You have to care about the characters. There has to be stakes for the characters. So you're checking all those boxes. It's great. Very cool. Well, I guess, why don't we let people know kind of how and where and when to get a hold of this. And then we've got a little giveaway to announce and talk about also.
Yeah, so the book is going to go live for minting on Friday, October 20th, which is not this Friday, but next Friday. And not all the details are released yet, but there's going to be 666 books to fit the theme, and a few of them already given away to the community holders. So there's going to be around I think 500 up for grabs, and you can visit endoftheworldpizza.com to sort of figure out where everything is. And if you want to check out more things, there's also a demo on our Twitter, which is the end is pie. You can go, and the app is finished, the book's finished, everything's done. So you can actually download the AR app right now. It's totally free, and you can. There's a page that's on the pin tweet on the end is pie, and you can just look at it. And it's actually one of the mini games you can shoot at the demons, and so you can hear the soundtrack and experience the animation and play one of the little mini games right now, just to see what you think of it. And yeah, so then next Friday is when it's going to drop.
That's awesome. So endoftheworldpizza.com to download the app and start to play around with some of that stuff. And then you said the end is pie is the Twitter handle.
Yep.
I got that right. Cool. So definitely check those things out. So in a very generous and awesome gesture, Rob has given us the ability to give away 2 of these editions. And so we're going to do one for the broad Macroverse community and then one specifically for the Vogu community.
Yeah.
And so both of these are going to be on the Macroverse Discord, but how we're going to do that is I'll set up 2 separate channels, which are going to be gated by role. So for the Vogu one in particular, you will need to have a Vogu role to get into that channel. And then you're just going to drop your wallet address. We will then take all those wallet addresses, hand them over to Rob. Rob will add you to the whitelist, and then you'll be able to get it. Or in that case, for the giveaways, tell me how you want to do that. Are those claims, or is that for the get on the whitelist for the discount and price? How is this all working? Remind me how you want to do that.
One person will be picked. We'll do random number generator or the Wheel of Names. We'll pick the winner, and then you'll get the comic airdropped. And then it's an NFT, but you can bring it to our web store when it opens, and it's redeemable for a physical copy. So these are all going to be physical, because you need that for the AR. The AR works with the digital PDF, but it really is designed to be on a physical book. So that you'll get that, and then you can also be entered. You'll just automatically be put onto the whitelist, which means you get an hour early access to the mint on that Friday, the October 20th, and a slightly discounted mint price as well.
Awesome. All right, so we'll give away one for each, and then everyone that enters their wallet address will be able to mint early and get a slight discount. Am I getting that right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Awesome. So come into discord.gg/Macroverse. That's where we'll set that up to be able to submit wallet addresses, and then we'll be passing those along to Rob over the next couple of days. I will definitely be on that list. I'm excited about this. And I guess, that kind of brings us, before we make the final little announcement here, Rob, where else can people connect with you? How do they see more of your work in general? I have a couple more little creative questions for you, but how do people get in touch or follow along with everything that you're doing?
I also have robshields.net. You can visit that. That's my main site, but mostly I'm the most active on our Discord, which we don't have a tag, but if you go just to the Twitter, the end is pie, it has all the links on there. Okay. So that's probably the end is pie is the best place to reach me right now. And you can hop on our Twitter, and I'm always on there. So if you want to talk and chat, I'll always be there.
Okay, cool. Actually, but I do have a couple other creative questions for you. I'm always curious, those of us that have fallen down this crazy Web3 rabbit hole, how did you get introduced to all of that? How did you find yourself kind of going NFTs?
So I'm trying to remember I remember in November of 2019, or no, maybe it was 2020. somebody had stolen my work and put it on an NFT. So that was my introduction. It was like, these people were like, hey, is this your stuff? And I was like, no. And then, so my first reaction was not good. I was like, this is terrible. This is not, I don't want to do this. This is, just people scamming. And then the next year, which was 21, like things were like way different and people were making like all this crazy money. Which was like, okay, I have to pay attention to this because like this can actually, like, I'd been using Kickstarter to try to get things funded and I'd been successful, but Kickstarter's gotten more into like getting celebrities and stuff, even in like comic books. Like Keanu Reeves was, last time I did a Kickstarter, Keanu Reeves was my competition. So it's like, wow, that's ridiculous. Like I can't compete with Keanu Reeves. And I still did well. Like I don't want to be like negative, but it's like, it was kind of like tough. So that was really interesting to see, like, wow, like digital art is becoming considered like more valuable and like getting its like moment in the sun. So I was really like, I want to do this. I really want to do this. And I actually got to work with Ron English, who is a famous like pop graffiti artist. And we did something for Nifty Gateway. He had these serial killers, which was like the mascots from cereal in like the 70s and 80s, like Tony the Tiger and Toucan Sam, but they're all like cracked out and like weird. And so I got to do the animation for them. So I did a Tony the Tiger and a Toucan Sam and the Trix Rabbit. And so that was like my first thing to do NFTs. And like, it was really lucrative. So I was like, okay, this is legit. And from there I did Foundation, which was like a curated like auction house kind of thing, which was okay. But then I found OpenSea, where it was like, at the time they let you do lazy minting. So you could just like build like this whole collection without any upfront cost to you, and you could like put it out there. And that's where I started making the undead drivers. So they were like one of one avatars that I drew by hand. And I was releasing like 10 of those a week, and they would sell out in like 30 seconds. So I did that for like a few months. And then we started doing like some pizza slices, and we did hover rides. And then by the end of that year, I did the Neon Demons, which were 666 of those. And then pretty much all of 2022, I was working. I didn't try to like do NFTs or sell things. We actually did a team up with Pizza Hut, where we got to give away free pizza for a year to some people. And I got to do an AR Pizza Hut box. So like when you looked at the box, it like opened up and a city came out. So that was really, really awesome. And then I also released Neon Wasteland 2 in 2022. So, and then I was working on another project which isn't released yet. So that's a third book. So I was working on like these 3 comic books in 2022, which was really overwhelming. But thankfully they're done now. And like now this is the last one that I'm finishing up. And so, yeah, I'm excited to like see what's next and push more. Cause like the technology, even in like NFT, has changed a lot since I was really into it. And now I can like host my own contracts on OpenSea, which is really nice. So that's going to let me token gate, and we're doing a metaverse with Spatial for End of the World Pizza. And so people that own the comic are actually going to get like special access to certain things in the future in that metaverse. And I'm really excited for Unreal Engine 5 too, and like going to Fortnite. So yeah, awesome. There's just like a lot of really awesome stuff that's possible now.
So cool. So cool. So this was that kind of leads me into my creative question. So I know, like, for Neon Wasteland, like most of that was very hand drawn, and it feels like much more akin to 2D animation for the majority of it. Clearly, End of the World Pizza is much more heavily 3D animation. Are you finding yourself kind of heading more towards 3D in general, are you kind of balancing both in different areas? Like, where are you? Kind of where's your focus at the moment?
I do, yeah. Like I find that like, cause doing the production for Neon Wasteland made me realize that like it would make it really difficult for me to push out the amount of content that I want within the amount of time that it would take me to do it without like hiring all these people to do all this animation. So I want to push more into 3D, and I want to like Spider-Verse it up, where it's like doing things like stretching and squashing and like blur frames and things that are going to pull in some of that 2D animation that I really like. And like, I also want to do an art book that's going to be, I think, more 2D animated, because I really love that. Like, I still really want to push my 2D animation skills more. And like anime is something that like just inspires me like endlessly. So, it's like, I don't want it to feel like it's too much like a 3D, but like there's like mixes between the two that I think can help like smooth out some of the rough edges and make it a little bit more like 2D. But then the benefit of 3D is like I can just make so much more content. Like when you look at this book, there's like, you know, so many hidden pages and like so much extra frames of animation that I can put into it that it just wouldn't have been possible without having that ability to do 3D.
Yeah, no, totally. I think, you know, the Spider-Verse thing, cool. I mean, this is one of the things that I have been in love with over the past handful of, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, I guess, probably since Spider-Verse came out. The first one is just like, it felt like that took the shackles off of the 3D animation industry, whereas like all of a sudden people are like, oh, we can have craft and artistry in this stuff that, you know, isn't just look how well rendered this tree is.
Yeah.
You know, and as much as I love Pixar movies, they now kind of feel like they're lagging behind and kind of like, what do these things actually look like? And, you know, how can you push the boundaries of what the style is and, you know, still create this, you know, fully realized world, but do it in a way where it's like, oh, you know, if you saw like the Ninja Turtles movie, it's like, it's this really rough kind of gritty, painterly, you know, kind of to it. And then you've got, you know, something like the Mitchells and the Machines, which is this kind of really interesting hybrid between like this almost like painted style, let alone something like Arcana, which just feels like moving concept art, which is just like, how is this?
Yeah, Arcana, like, it's so damn good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the fact that we've shifted into that phase of, you know, what can you do in 3D that, you know, is bringing a level of craft and artistry to it that, you know, is just a layer removed from how powerful the CPU is to be able to render perfect light and water.
And I think like that's another great example where the AI, like if the AI can handle like the rigging of the models and it can handle some of the first pass of the animation, and you can go in and be like, okay, I'm going to do like that added stuff that, or like I'm going to paint over, and like maybe it can help you paint over too. But yeah, it's like Arcana is such a great example. Like you watch that and you're like, this is definitely 3D, but it's not like any 3D that I've seen before.
Yeah.
And I really like it. And some of it is totally 2D, obviously. Like when Jinx is like her smoke and stuff like that, like that's just straight up like that's the stuff you want to see. Like, so
super cool. Well, I love it. I'm, you know, as always, a huge fan of your work. So I'm glad we got to chat about this. And now I'm very excited. So, yeah, as we said, you know, we're going to give a Macroverse community a copy and a Vogu community copy. And not only does the Vogu feel like a good fit for the world that all this exists in, but I am beyond thrilled to say that one of the Vogu shorts that we are working on that just got cast from the Vogu community of people that submitted story ideas is going to be crafted by Rob as a 2-page comic. So that is going to be so cool to see. And
I'm really excited.
More excited.
Yeah, I love the Vogue community. It's going to be awesome. And I'm so glad that we get to work with something on Macroverse too, because I've been following it for a while and I really love what you guys are doing. So yeah, I'm like beyond excited to be able to work together.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be so cool. I can't wait. So that's another reason to support End of the World Pizza, so we can get more of Rob into the Macroverse. Awesome, man. Well, I always like to wrap these up by asking kind of what's something kind of top of mind for you that you've really been enjoying or recommending, you know, whether it's a show or a podcast or, you know, an app or, you know, anything that you feel like has been kind of rewarding creatively in what you've been focusing on recently.
Oh man, that's tough. You're putting me on the spot. It's like I've been so like in a time warp of like of trying to get things done. I mean, I've been really inspired by like, I mean, it's Halloween time, so I've been like, some of the work that I've been doing recently has been like based on like watching some of the new horror movies that are coming out, like the new Evil Dead that came out. I don't know if you've seen that yet. Evil Dead Rise.
I haven't seen it yet, you're the second person now telling me I should watch it. So.
This is going to be blasphemy because I don't like the Evil Dead movies. Like, I mean, not as much. Like they were just always a little bit too campy for me. And but this one like was like I was like, okay, yeah, I'm totally on board. I really liked it. It's definitely different. But it's not set in the woods and it affects the family. So it's like, but it's really fun. It's just like, it's not like it's kind of gory and gross and all that stuff, but it's just fun. Like it's trying to creep you out, but it's doing it in such an over the top way that you just laugh about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's almost like a comfort zone horror movie, if that's a thing. For how messed up that movie is. Some people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, for me, it was enjoyable.
That's awesome.
And that, like, I created these corrupted drivers, and like it was partially inspired by watching that movie.
Yeah.
And I still go back every year and watch it. 2017, which is my favorite movie of the last decade.
Cool.
Yeah. I really love that movie because I was really young when the first It movie came out, and it scared the shit out of me because my parents were like, "You can watch this. It's just Stephen King. Like, this is fine for a small child about a monster that eats children. Like this is a great thing to watch right before bed, you know, like primetime programming, you know." And they're just like,
and tomorrow we're going to the circus.
Yeah, you're just in your room at night in the dark, like what is happening? So yeah, like that obviously left an impression on me as a kid. So that, like, going back to that in 2017 was like really awesome, and they did such a good job. So yeah, that's like a high watermark for me.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, I guess those would be my horror recommendations since it's Halloween time.
That's awesome. Well, I find for myself, there are things that fall, like all of my content consumption falls into two categories now. There's stuff that I actually really want to fully pay attention to. And then there's the vast majority of stuff, which I'm like doing something else and kind of half paying attention to. So in that half paying attention to category, and yet still very enjoyable. I may have mentioned this on a different stream recently, but my kids and I have been watching the Lego Master Show, which is everything you would think that it would be as a reality competition show, but it's also a lot of fun to see the crazy insanity of the stuff that people can build with Lego. So it has gotten us pulling out some Lego bricks. So if you've ever been a Lego person, I definitely it's a fun time. It's a fun time.
Good deal. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thanks so much for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it. For anyone watching or who comes to this stream, all the various places that it's streaming, do come into the Macroverse Discord. I will put this announcement in the announcement channel where to find the place to submit your wallets. And then give us the drop details one more time, just so we keep this on people's radar as we're closing out.
So it's you can go to endoftheworldpizza.com, which will link you directly to the drop when it goes live, and it's next Friday, which is October 20th, and the public mint is at 12 p.m. Eastern.
Excellent. And go check out and follow The End is Pie, which is now my favorite Twitter /X handle that I've heard in quite a while. Awesome. Rob, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
And I will be there on drop day, and I hope everybody else will be there as well.
Thanks again, man. I really, really appreciate having me on.
My pleasure. Let's make some Vogu.
Yeah.
Woo. All right. Thanks, everybody.